Thank you for agreeing to do this.
No problem.
One way I like to start is just to ask if you remember how we met.
Man, I think Assembly Required was playing a show at the ZCBJ Hall, and you was standing in the back, and Bruce Spitzer had me come up and just introduce you, and I don't remember a lot about it, but I do remember you said you thought I didn't like you.
No.
Which is so funny to me because I always think I love everybody, and it's just so funny to me that you thought that.
Well, to be fair, I think that about everyone. But
oh man, that is just hilarious.
I know.
I'd redo that if I could go back and be more
not
friendly.
at all. It turned out okay, I think.
I do remember when we asked you if you wanted to come down and practice with us, and it was like that night was like, so you want to be in the band?
I know.
Remember?
Yes. So Bruce introduced me to you guys, and I was invited to come jam or audition, really.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, right.
Ostensibly as a keyboard player, but I didn't have a keyboard yet. So
I remember,
do you remember
which
that?
one we used because I took that little Casio thing, I had no anything, just a little cheap Casio thing. I had that.
You're right. Like by the end of the night, somebody just said like, well, I think we'd like to have you in the band. And I remember thinking, maybe you guys want to talk about it together.
Yeah, I do remember you was surprised, and like, you didn't know we were going to ask you to be in the band.
Yeah. So that had to be maybe 2003 or 4. When did Assembly Required band start? You started that band.
I think it was 2002, actually. I'm not real positive on that, but the whole thing started when I got that little acoustic guitar from the garage sale in Pawnee, and I didn't know how to play or anything, but Brian Rickie happened to stop by that night, and I said, oh, we should learn together. It'd be more fun, and I bought a little chord book from Seneca from somewhere, because I didn't know anything, and it hurts your fingers when you first start, and yeah. Brian come over and we learned some chords and stuff, and it didn't take us very long. We traded and we went and bought some electric guitars, little crate tour pack come with a little amp and all that, and we just kept playing out in my garage, and Terry Troxel came by, and he played acoustic a little bit, and he said, oh, you need to get more people in a band and everything. We weren't good enough to be in a band yet. But we kept playing anyway, and I remember Terry Troxel had Megan Bowen stop by. He set it all up, but we didn't know it. We just thought Megan was driving by my house and seen us and just happened to have her drums in there. And so that's seriously how it started. Me and Brian and Megan.
And you guys are all related, right?
Right. I mean, we're all cousins. So. Yeah. I can't remember. The ZCBJ Hall there, Bob Bleck, I think, let us use that for a place to practice. And we was learning a few songs by then. Huh. And we set up a show. It was scary, but me and Brian and Megan played a show or two, like New Year's Eve, I think. And we was just so worried nobody was going to show up. Yeah. And pretty soon, you know how the DCBJ Hall is, everybody parking on the side, and pretty soon the cars, and they were way down the hill and up the hill parked and everything. And we was just so nervous. And
You're nervous nobody will come, and then you're nervous that everybody came.
Yeah.
So you prepared like 3 or 4 hours already for your first gig?
Yeah, we played a full 4-hour show. But we'd probably been practicing, Brian and I, for a year maybe, but we still didn't know anything, but we just practiced. We weren't very good. But we played a New Year's show, and I think we played a Valentine's show. And somewhere in there, we got Mike, and because Brian knew Mike, and I remember he came over and practiced in my garage once, and we were so terrible, I was surprised that he was as nice as he was. But he acted like he'd play again, and everything. I think we got Mike. He might have been at that first Valentine's show. I can't remember.
Okay. And then, of course, he was connected to his brother-in-law, Tony, who played drums when I knew the band.
Yeah. Megan was getting ready to go to college, she was graduating, and Mike said, well, my brother-in-law plays drums, and he brought Tony in, and Megan went off to college, and that was assembly required. And then until you came along, we stayed that lineup forever. Well, about 10 years.
That's cool.
It felt like a lot of time. I mean, we grew pretty close.
Yeah, we did. We did a lot of fun gigs. Do you have any fun memories of playing in assembly required?
I have all fond memories of playing. I'm trying to think of some particularly funny one. You mentioned the Frito-Lay thing, and that you didn't remember this, but you was teasing me saying, should I speak with an English accent, and you did all night. I remember that. It was so funny.
Yeah, some casino in Kansas where Frito-Lay hired us to play this business dance of some kind. It was a fun show, and then our sound man Jerry won a bunch of money in the casino that night and bought us all breakfast.
But not at that casino because they didn't have breakfast. We went to the next casino, remember?
I love these memories. I also remember from time to time, or at least once I know this happened, where we finished a gig, and it's 2 or 3 in the morning by the time we get packed away. Do you know where I'm going with this story?
I do know what you're talking about.
We used to sometimes have pancakes afterwards. But this time we decided, we'll just drive 75 miles to Lincoln or whatever it is.
We did. We drove to Screenfields or something now, but it was IHOP, I think. And,
that's right.
And we had breakfast. I remember that. Wow.
And saw the sun coming up on our way home. Oh, man, I can't do that anymore.
Oh, my gosh, I know. I remember we played someplace in Beatrice, and you got sick and could not play, remember? And you was in the hospital, like mono or something. I remember you was pretty sick, but you did. I remember we was getting ready to play, and you texted and said, keep it down, hippies, or something. But and he was laughing, but I remember driving home, and sun was coming up on that one, too.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember being sick with mono in the hospital at one point. I don't remember that I missed gigs. Sorry about that.
That's the only one I remember. But, I mean, being in the hospital was a medium good excuse.
Yeah.
I'm sure we was mad at you for a while.
I'm sure you were. Well, then I pilfered you and Mike out of Assembly Required to play in my band, in Daniel Christian Band. Do you have any memories of that?
I remember how it happened. I remember Mike was already playing for you, but you had said that you wanted to talk to me, and we got together at the Southside Drive-In or whatever. I didn't know what you want to talk about, but you asked me if I'd join the band, and I said, well, I needed a reason to get better anyway. But
I was thrilled you did. It was a lot of fun having you around.
Oh, man, I have a lot of fun memories of that as well.
We wrote some songs together as well.
We did.
You contributed to a song of mine called the California Song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't write much of that, but just a little bit.
Yeah, those echoes in the chorus that Amanda sings on the album.
Right.
And we wrote a song called Lover Like Me.
Yeah.
Which I thought, boy, this sounds like a Tom Petty song. I'm going to go to the guy I know who loves Tom Petty songs.
It's funny. It wasn't too long ago when we was sitting around just in Nashville, and it was just friends and that, and we had the Alexa or something on, and I was like, I wonder if Lover Like Me is on there, and we asked for it, and yeah, it played Lover Like Me. And that was the first time I'd heard that song for a long time. That was pretty neat. What
made my day about that song was, we always talk about what would Petty do, on these songs. And it got on the radio out in Hastings, Nebraska, college town. Mm-hmm. And I got a nice email from somebody who said, I just heard your song on the radio, and I had to track you down because I really want to buy it. I'm a huge Tom Petty fan, and that song reminds me of Tom Petty.
On End of Summer's Gonna Roll You, the laugh.
Yeah.
I remember, I didn't know that you guys recorded it, but I do know that the laugh came from, I don't know, when I was doing my takes on my singing part, or, it was behind the glass, and you said, we like that one. That one sounded good. And I said, yeah, I kind of channeled Tom Petty on that one. And I laughed. And that's the laugh that's on there. And it's hilarious.
I didn't know what you were laughing at. That's interesting that you remember that.
Yeah, I said I kind of channeled Petty on that one.
Well, I mean, not to make you self-conscious, but people tell you a lot about your laugh, that you have a very famous laugh. And now we've documented it on an album. Let's talk about Summer's Gonna Roll You, because that's the song that people asked me to play a lot. Right. You had a big hand in writing that. What do you remember about writing that song?
This is how I remember it. I must have been an email, and you had the first verse and the chorus, I believe, and you sent it to me, and I liked it, and that second verse just came out of nowhere, man. That was really a Tom Petty moment right there, because it just came out of nothing. I was happy with it. I sent it back, and you're like, yeah. But I wrote a bridge, and you said, I wrote a bridge too.
Yeah.
And we used them both.
Yes, we did. I remember sending you kind of what I had on that song and wanting some help. I didn't know where to go with it. And I remember saying, I'm not even sure I know what this song's about. And you said, I know what this song's about.
Right. That one was the easiest song ever, to write. It just came out. Yeah.
Now we made a music video for it and everything. How about that?
Oh, man. I know. I think originally I had said something about a coin in a well, and you said, let's make it coins. You envisioned all these coins down there, and then we changed it to coins in a well. But
that was probably the most important contribution I made.
Quite a little bit more in royalties because you said that. I still play that thing around the fire and stuff down there when we're friends and stuff getting together. I still play Summer's Gonna Roll You. I cut all your parts out.
Well, it's for the best. So at some point, you up and moved to Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep.
Now, you moved to Nashville, you get a job working at Gibson at the guitar factory.
I actually had already made the decision to move. Gibson came after the decision to move there. I didn't know where I wanted to work. I just wanted to work somewhere where I could just work normal hours. And
up until now, I'd known you as a bricklayer. You and your family were masons.
Right. And I wanted to do something that wasn't that, where I could. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just said I wanted to do something where, 8 hours or something, and a buzzer would go off, and I could just drop my stuff and walk away and, enjoy Nashville. But the Gibson thing just came out of nowhere. Seen something Gibson, thought, oh, that'd be fun. Well, I'll apply. And I called there and said, we're down in Nashville. Can I interview? And they said, yeah, you can come in today. And I did. And I remember it was this room, I didn't know at the time, but it's supervisors and stuff. And they was asking me things, what have you do? Well, I've been a bricklayer my whole life. But why would they hire me? But at the end, I just said, look, I show up for work every day, and I'm not afraid to work. And
by the way, I just started playing guitar 12 years ago.
Yeah. Right? Is this an E chord? I don't remember.
That's my favorite part of your story, I think, is that you start, I don't know if you want to reveal your age, but I'm
58. It's okay.
So how old are you when you pick up a guitar and you start learning with your cousin?
I believe I was 38 with that very first acoustic guitar, and I'd never picked up a guitar. I always knew if I wanted to, I could probably play. It's the same thing with carving and that. I didn't do carving when I first started Gibson, but I tell everybody they needed something carved, and they was trying to figure out how to, and I said, I believe I could carve that for you if you want me to. And I didn't own any chisels. I'd never carved anything. That's not what I did. Yeah. But I bought 3 chisels and carved that for them. It's kind of like that with guitar playing. I just knew I could if I wanted to. Yeah.
There's something to be said for that attitude, probably, and just approaching anything in life. Like, you just believe you can do it.
Yeah. I actually did an interview for a magazine, and I don't remember if it was Musician's Friend or what. And And it was in California at the NAMM show. And I told him that. I said, what really turned it is I learned to just, I used to be shy about everything, and well, I don't know if I can do it. And I said, I learned somehow to just say yes when somebody says, hey, can you do this? Because that's what happened at Gibson. They said, hey, Rick, you know how to draw? Because there's a whiteboard. You know me and whiteboards. I would draw stuff. Well, I used to do that down there. I'd draw pictures of guys working, doing funny stuff and everything. And one day a supervisor said, hey, Rick, you can draw, can't you? And instead of just saying, I said, yeah. And he said, will you come with me? I got a sketch pad. And he took me up in a room with, it was like a corporate room, and there was all these suits and everything around. They introduced me to a guy. And
so time out. How long had you been working at Gibson when this invitation happens?
I think I'd been there maybe 5 years, and not long enough to know everybody and that.
And you're doing the binding on the guitars and stuff.
I did that at first. I had moved on. I was grading wood and deciding what colors they were going to be, depending on grade and things like that. Okay. So I'd learned quite a little bit by then,
So then you go up to this conference room with some of the big dogs.
Yeah. They introduced me they had a new products guy, and he had a real thick accent. But he says, we're just going to talk about something, and you can just listen and sketch. I was nervous as could be, because I'm really not that good at on the moment sketching things, But they was talking about this Gibson Experience store, like Apple had, where you could go in and it was everything Apple and that. And they were talking about doing something with Gibson, and they were trying to sketch and stuff. But during the whole thing, they were talking about these booths where you could go in and there would be maybe 10 guitars in there that you could pick from, and you could just plug them in. And then there would be green screens, and it could be like you're playing in front of thousands of people and different stuff and play. But they couldn't figure out how to make the booth shapes. He said, I don't like it. Most people are right-handed and everything plugs in, but the guy next to him, the plug-in's going to be on the left and it's going to be over. And he said, I just don't like that. And I said, well, why can't we shape them like this? I don't know how you're going to hear that on a podcast, but, but like that. And then everybody's right-handed. And he goes, Rick's idea is fantastic. You guys. and from then on, it was like, if somebody was talking, there's, stop, everybody stop. Rick is sketching. Rick is sketching. It's hilarious.
The artist needs silence to work.
I went home that week. That was a Friday, and I went home, and I had some poster board, and I did 2 poster boards of what I envisioned this thing was being. I brought them in Monday, and they were like, and they showed, and that thing made it to Henry Juskowitz, the owner, and he got to see him and everything. I'm like, wow. But I got friends with that new product guy, and he's the one who wanted Paisley carved on a guitar. And I since I knew him, I said, hey, Cedric, I believe I could carve that. And he said, take anything home you want. And I took home a body and carved that first guitar. Wow. When I texted him when it was done, I said, I think I got this thing done. He was in Switzerland, and he said, I sent me a picture, and I sent a picture. He says, take that down to the custom shop and have them put it together. And that's how I first met the custom shop, and wow. Yeah, it was fun stuff.
So tell me about how does the transition happen from Gibson USA to the custom shop, which is a different place across town?
Right, it is. It's a couple miles apart. But I took that Paisley guitar down, and I met a guy named Matt Kaler who said, oh, yeah, we'll do the guitar, and made it up. And he called me a couple weeks later, and he said, it's done. Come down and see it. And I went down. I got pictures and stuff, and then it kind of died out. The excitement's over then, and I was like, I don't want it to die out. So I said, let me take another body home. I'll carve something else. And so I took another body home and carved that basket weave with the flowers and stuff on it. And I sent him a picture, and he said, oh, take it down to the custom shop. And I was just doing it for free, after work and stuff. And I did that second one, and it was almost Christmas. And well, they made a guitar out of that one too. And Matt's like, oh, we got something for you. You come down, a Christmas present, and they had given me a Gibson stool and some bling, Gibson gear and all that. But he said, come down, and I went down there after work, and he took me in a room, and it was just racks of guitars of all kinds, Gibsons, but SGs and Les Pauls and Firebirds and Explorers and everything. He said, you can pick out any guitar you want. And I
How many do you think were in that room?
I don't know. I would guess 1,000, maybe. Wow. It was just every color and unbelievable. And he was showing me some Les Pauls, and I said, I don't really want a Les Paul because I had a few of them. I did a thing or two right up at USA, and they gave me a guitar or two, and so I had a few of them.
So they just gave me a Les Paul, like they do.
I won one at an employee thing, and cool. So I didn't really want a Les Paul, even though everybody loves Les Pauls, but I kind of was thinking of an SG, but I ended up picking a Firebird Custom, and I love that thing. But it's special just because they gave it to me for that. But it was shortly after that, then the general manager from there came up and he said, would you like to be the Gibson artist? And I'm like, nah, man, I don't know. I'll think about it. But it was just like that. You want to be the Gibson artist? I'm like, what?
And you knew what that meant at the time? And
I didn't know what it meant. Okay. I didn't realize. I'm still learning what it means. The power over those guitars that they give me and the freedom nobody can believe it really, because it's just super. When I moved down there, they showed me around the plant once, and they said, this is probably where you want to carve if you want to paint something or spray it or whatever. There's a room, and showed me. And then he patted me on the back. He says, we'll see ya. And that was, nobody comes around and asks me, what are you working on? Or when are you going to be done? Or what is it? They just let me do whatever I want. I suppose there's a limit if I start messing up too bad. But.
Yeah. It just sounds like a crazy dream come true. You couldn't write this story.
It truly is. I tell people all the time, if I was touring through the custom shop and I seen me sitting there, I'd think, how did that guy ever get that job? Because it's too unbelievable. Nobody gets a job like that. Yeah. I didn't know how to do inlay or nothing, but I wanted to do some special stuff, and I just took, a week and kind of practiced around, learned how to do inlay for myself, and now I inlay all the time, or metal work, or whatever I want. They just let me run.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, I got some really fun stuff happening now. It's just about to bust out, but I think I could maybe talk about it a little, but
it's up to you. I don't want to.
Well, they're opening a thing down in the Gulch called the Gibson Garage, and even I don't know for sure what it all is, but it's going to be a real special building, and I believe anybody can go in there. I think you can buy anything Gibson in there, but they're going to give me a special place down there. I'm going to have my name on it, my special guitars and stuff like that. He said the graphics and stuff are real cool, and it'll be the Rickie Hinrichsen area and everything. I just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait.
Man, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I'm so excited for you. I did put out on Facebook that I was going to be talking to the Gibson Custom Shop Artist.
Yeah.
And if anybody had any questions or guitar nerd stuff, do you mind taking a couple nerdy questions?
I'll give it a shot.
I brought my list here.
Okay.
Well, first of all, Amanda, who you know very well, she said, do you ever feel rushed creatively? Are there deadlines? What's the longest it's taken to make a guitar?
I absolutely do not ever feel rushed. It's my guitar, and nobody asks me when it's going to be done. A lot of the stuff is just my creations. I build them, and some dealer or somebody will see it and want it. But even if it's for a customer who says, I want this, there's never, ever a rush on it. The biggest rush, and I was just talking about that, I was showing my brother some pictures. I'm embarrassed, but I can't remember his name. The guy that played guitar for Elton John forever.
John Jorgensen?
Maybe. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And they were doing their last tour, and they were going to be in Nashville and he had a guitar. I think Bernie Taupin did the artwork on it, but I don't remember what the guitar was, but I do know the neck was red, white, and blue, and there was stars and stripes and stuff on the headstock, but the truss rod cover was just a Gibson truss rod cover, and he wanted to know if I would paint that to match, and yeah, I could do that, but they wanted it while they waited.
Oh.
So, so I'm trying to match colors and everything, but I got her done. It was all right. But I know I'm never rushed that at all. Seriously. Wow. They just absolutely, they say it's your guitar until you give it to us and say, put it together.
Bob asks, when you work with an artist to create a piece, do they usually know exactly what they want, or is there a chance to help guide the creation?
So far, anybody that's asked me to do something, they have the idea, for instance, can you do, there was a lady in California who used to jump horses when she was younger, and she said, could you do my horse? And I said, I'd give it a try. So, and her and her husband flew down and talked to me at Nashville. And interesting side story, she seen my tattoo on my arm, and she said, you like Tom Petty? And I said, I love Tom Petty. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Tom Petty. And she said, well, he lives two houses down from us.
Oh, my God.
I'm like... But anyway, she said, I don't want my whole horse. I just want the horse's mane on that. And I said, oh, yeah. I had her send me some pictures, and then I wanted more than that. And I started coming up with these ideas, you got a picture of you jumping. Why don't you let me wood burn that on the back, and I'll carve a rope border or something around it. And she said, anything you want to do on that guitar, you do. And so every one of them have been that way, though. They just kind of have the idea, and then they just let me run with it. I'll run it past them, though. I don't want to do something they don't want to do. I'll say, what do you think of this? On that ladies, I did some surprises for her. What she said when we was talking about Tom Petty, she said, why don't you somehow put his initials in there somewhere? Because we love Tom too, and I, on the pick guard, it just looks like kind of a Western scroll design, but if I show you, it's actually her initials, her husband's initials, my initials, and Tom Petty's initials.
I love those little Easter eggs.
I'll have to show you a picture sometime. But
I remember when you were working on that one.
Yeah. That everybody has given me total freedom so far. Nobody has just I got to have this particular thing. Cool. Although right before I came up here, I think it was the last day I worked before I came to Nebraska, somebody asked me if I could do a portrait of somebody, and I said, I don't know, but I'm having pretty good luck. I'm not scared of much right now. I'd give it a try. And some guy had his son had died, and he wants me to know if I can do a portrait. I'll give it a try. Wow. Yeah.
What a responsibility. I'd be afraid of that, but it's neat to hear you say yes, like you were saying before.
Right. I'm getting pretty confident. I feel like I can do it, but we'll see.
Yeah. Andrew asks, what kind of requests would you turn down?
Would I turn down?
Yeah.
A request to do the same thing. My stuff's one of a kind, one-offs, and I just don't think it's fair to do another one for anybody else,
They sell them then for tens of thousands of dollars.
Right. That Hawaiian-looking guitar that I had at NAMM, we had... had to be 4 or 5 people that wanted another one. I said, it's not fair to do that. The guy that bought that, though, interestingly enough, he owns EA Sports games, and he gave it to his 7-year-old daughter. I think it was a $28,000 guitar. Wow. And he gave it to his 7-year-old daughter because she was learning to surf. And then I wrote her a little note in there, good luck with your surfing and everything. And I don't know, it was a month or two later, we got an email, and he said, well, my son got jealous. Will you make one for my son? And the exact same one. And in that instance, for the same man, I said, yeah. And so I made a duplicate.
Interesting.
And that guitar, they let me name them. So that one was called Ho'omaha, and it means rest and relax. And I so we got Omaha 1 and 2. But
oh man,
yeah,
what a cool story. I love this stuff. Nathan asks, which wood is best?
Most of the stuff, I mean, SGs and all that are mahogany mostly, and of course Les Pauls are mahogany backs most of the time. You can get them anything you want, but most of the time mahogany backs with maple fronts, and so maple and mahogany is 90% of what I'll carve, and I love them both. They both carve different, but I'm used to them and I love them.
Nice.
Yeah. The most beautiful wood you've ever seen. I get asked sometimes, oh, would you do a mantle or a bed thing or something? And I'm not interested in it. I do guitars and I get to work with the best wood in the world. I mean, I took, you guys toured through there and it's just racks of beautiful wood to pick from. That's good enough for me.
Mike asks, what are they doing different now with humbuckers that they did or didn't do in 56 to 59? If that year was the best sounding and most sought after pickup, why not do it that way?
Believe me, there's guys that pour over that sort of thing all the time, and they do. I mean, it's a custom shop. From USA, it's different, but down at the custom shop, you can get it done, and you can get anything you want. If you want it wound exactly like that, they do that. It's, you would not believe it. I mean, just the way the Gibson is wrote on the headstock, and there are people like, well, in 58, the little swoop on the G was somewhat wider and slightly, and they pour hours and hours over all that, and engineers, and it's because it was hand done by then. None of them are exactly the same, but they worry about every detail, and pickups is one of them. Believe me, you can get anything you want there. It's, yeah.
Okay. How about one more? This one's from Bruce. He says, are they actively pursuing more builds with fretboard materials other than rosewood, ebony, for example?
Yeah, I mean, you could probably get almost anything you wanted at the custom shop. I've done maple fretboards and all that too, but I don't know as far as experimenting with different ones. It'd be not really my wheelhouse of what they're doing there. Their guys deal with all that sort of thing,
Thank you for answering some of those. I'm not much of a techie gear guy, so I appreciate you letting me open it up to other people who are.
Yeah, to be truthful, I'm not really a gearhead either. I mean, there's just, as far as pickups and that, I pick up a guitar and play it, but I don't really know how they were wound in 58, or I don't, and that it's just not what I'm interested in. I'm more interested in the art part of it and that. Yeah.
Where does art start for you? I mean, you were that way as a kid, weren't you? Like a high school kid. Were you kind of the art student? Is that how you were known? Or?
Yeah, I used to do little cartoons. I remember in junior high, and that there was this little newsletter paper thing, and I do little cartoons for that. Or the teachers were, it's funny, like Bruce Houghton and that, we had him for business math and typing and that, and he used to let me draw stuff on the chalkboard all the time. Or
did you take art classes and things too? Or
well, I mean, we had art in school, and that's an interesting story that I told too. Mrs. Martin was my art teacher, and she asked what I was going to do, when I got out of school and that. And at the time, I wanted to be a carpenter. She said, "Oh, please do something with art." She knew how much I loved it and everything. And I actually said not too long ago, I said, I hope Mrs. Martin can see me, because I think she'd be real, proud of the fact that I actually finally got to do it. And I think about her a lot. Yeah.
What a neat story, though, man. Yeah. That's so cool. I wonder about your favorite albums. Sometimes I ask people what their like desert island records are. Do you have a couple of records that you must have with you if you could only pick a few?
Tom Petty Wildflowers got to be my favorite album ever. Yeah. Interestingly enough, I like Black Crowes. I think it was Shake Your Moneymaker or something. Yeah. And that one, just because She Talks to Angels on there, and I always said, man, I wish I'd have wrote that. That's just a great song. Yeah. I have a lot of them, but I know that's a couple of them.
was thinking about you as a 16-year-old kid or something on your dirt bike or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you think you would say to that kid if you could talk to yourself? Would you give yourself some advice? What would you say?
I would say what I said before. Don't be so shy about say yes more and just don't be shy. Just jump right in, because I learned it so late. I'm getting old now, but if I had just learned it earlier, I can't imagine what I could have done. I wish everybody would just say yes more. What's the worst that could possibly happen, Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely encourage him to be a little more outgoing and like that.
What are you afraid of?
Especially when I first started as at the custom shop as the artist, I was afraid I would almost just have panic attacks. Like, what if I run out of ideas? What will I do? And it hasn't been that way at all. I kind of calm myself down. I said, you don't need a million ideas. You just need the next one. Yeah. You just need the next one, and it hasn't worked that way at all. I feed off everybody. And of course I know everybody, and there always comes somebody coming up and saying, oh man, it would be cool if you do this or whatever. And, I write them down and stuff. And it's not possible to run out of ideas. I don't worry about it anymore.
You can always fill that well too. You watch a movie or you read a book or you go someplace and it feeds your creativity well.
Yeah. And I'm lucky enough to be able to meet a lot of other artists and things from around the country, around the world, really. And we're all different. I said, gee whiz, I'm not a rivalry with any of these guys. I love more girls, I love them all. And we're all different and we kind of feed and learn from other artists as well. I'm having a good time learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm afraid of anymore. Podcast interviews.
Yeah. Well, this one's just about through. Just about 30 or 40 more questions. I wonder if you can remember a time when someone was particularly out of their way kind or generous to you.
I tell you what, I don't know. Maybe I just look for the good in everybody. Everybody is kind to me. I just do not meet people that are not kind to me. And it's just the truth. My gosh, everybody goes out of their way, it seems like, to be nice and say nice things, not just the people working at Gibson or that, but I see thousands of people when I'm carving an NAM and that, and they come through and everybody's just so positive and nice and watch. To me, it would be a little boring to sit there and watch a guy carving. It's not the fast and everything. This is like, oh no, it's like watching fire, things like that. But no, everybody is nice to me. I just seem like I don't get negative people for some reason.
Have you ever tried to or wanted to do something or had an artistic idea and then the other guys at the shop are telling you well, we probably can't do that because, the volume knob has to go there or whatever?
Some of the guys that are more knowledgeable about the guitar building aspect of it, I'll run something by. Look, will it mess up? Will it change the pitch if I do this? Or can I carve through this or whatever? And they're pretty good about helping me out. Sometimes I listen and sometimes I don't. If it's
the art
because usually if I do it, and even if it makes it a little harder for them to do something, they figure it out anyways. But I do. I look advice from all those guys on what is it okay to do and what not, and I don't know that they've told me I couldn't do anything. It's usually they just tell me I can do anything I want, and then we'll figure it out. Yeah, I don't think there's anything they told me I can't do yet.
Cool. How would you like to be remembered?
Oh, boy. It was a little daunting when I first got the job as the artist, and the general manager and Matt Kaler and those guys. They took me in a room. It's when they first asked me if I would go to NAMM and carve in front of people. And he said, the guy that did it before me his name was Bruce Kunkel, and he'd done it since early '90s, and he said the Bruce Kunkel era, it's over, and this is the Rick Hinrichsen era, wow. For Gibson. He said you get to do what you want now, and I've always wanted to kind of leave something that people could remember me by, but I don't even know what it is. I almost think more than the art now, which is important to me. I just want everybody to remember me as being nice. Yeah. I just don't like it if I feel like somebody doesn't think I'm a nice person or whatever. It seems like it bothers me. I bend over backwards because I love everybody.
Yeah, you do. You're a pretty likable guy. It's hard to imagine somebody not liking you. Is there anything else I should ask you that I haven't remembered to ask? I maybe have one other thing, but
I will say I've made tons and tons of friends since I've been in Nashville. I remember when I was getting ready to move down there, and of course, at that time, I was thinking more of the music part of it, and songwriting and doing that. And you said, I think it'll happen more so organically for you. You'll get to know people, and then this will happen. It's really how it happened, but not so much with the songwriting thing. I still do songwrite and stuff and play out just a little bit and that. But I've made a ton of friends there, but I have a ton of friends back here too. And I think about you guys all the time and different things about all you guys, all my friends. I didn't move down there and forget my life here or anything. I still remember every bit of fun we ever had.
Yeah. You're real good about keeping in touch and teasing each other on our phones and and showing us around the Gibson factory when we come to town.
Absolutely, yeah.
One last question. I like to ask folks if they've ever met a celebrity, and I know you've run into some really good players. Maybe that's not the one you'll pick, but have you ever been starstruck or run into a famous person? Not even through Gibson, maybe. I don't know.
You know what? Amazingly enough, I haven't really been starstruck. I think if I'd have had a chance to meet Tom Petty, I probably would have. Mm-hmm. And I had a chance to. They asked me. Keith Richards did a guitar in the Exile on Main Street time. When they were exiling that, and he did this crazy swirly paint. It almost looked like a wave or something. There was a moon involved in that, but it was all these squiggles and everything. And I guess that's in the Metropolitan Museum or something, but they asked I think he wanted another one to ask if I could duplicate that. And I said, I'll give it a try, and it really didn't take as long as I thought. I spent a couple days on it, and they just loved it and that, and it did get to him, I understand. It didn't go right from me. It went to a guy in California who knows all these guys, and somehow it got to him, and I heard good things that he loved it and everything. But they were getting ready to do a tour, and they were going to play at the Titan Stadium there, and I just knew we'd talked about it that he'd probably be in and everything, and I was really, really nervous to meet Keith Richards because I didn't know if he was a nice man or not, or anything, and I would have been terribly nervous to meet him. But then, of course, COVID hit and the whole thing got canceled. So,
so
I don't know.
Dodged that one, huh?
Yeah, right. But I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of fun, famous people. They're all just people like us, and they're all kind and interested in what I'm doing, and everybody asks me what's the most rock and roll thing that's happened to me there, and I have a story. I guess I'll tell you. I was at the Crossroads Festival for the Eric Clapton, in Dallas, and they had us set up this Gibson room. The stage is here and the audience and everything, but when you come off the stage down the stairs, there was this room, and it was just, they had it so cool, and all this food and everything Gibson in there, and I was carving in there for him, I just took a body down. I was carving, and I met so many fun people. I'll never forget Eric Clapton's drummer. He come up and he introduced himself, and I said, "Yeah, I know who you are," and he said, "Well, they had a giant screen there. I could see what they were practicing for 3 days, so I was there the whole time, and they'd come in and eat and stuff. But he said we were all standing there, and they said, there's a guy carving a guitar over there. And of course, I'm watching them thinking, oh, that's so cool, and they're over there talking about me. And they said, there's a guy carving a guitar. And he said, he thought they meant maybe out of ice or something, like they do. And and they said, no, he's carving a real guitar. And so they was coming over to see what I was doing, and he was so kind and interested in what I was doing. That's not even my story, though.
Yeah.
But it was like the last night, and for whatever reason, the Los Lobos guys was hanging around, and we was watching the other guys play, and we was all talking, and this guy comes up and he says, I love what you're doing. He said, I was a B.B. King's drummer for 25 years or something. But he was so kind. He said, can we exchange phone numbers? Can I get a picture with you? And I just thought it was hilarious because I don't like to ask guys if I can have a picture with them, but I'm fortunate enough that they'll come and they'll say, can I get a picture with you? And I just laughed, I said, of course,
Then you say, text it to me.
Yeah. But the Los Lobos guys, they had wandered off, so we had nobody right there at that time. And there's all these people, wandering around and eating and stuff in there. And he goes, Jimmy. And it's Jimmy Vaughn. And I guess it's his wife, whatever. He's standing there, and he's got his arm around this girl, and he looks over, and he looks exactly like Jimmy Vaughn, too. I mean, he's got his hair slicked back. He's got a silk suit on, just looking like a fabulous Thunderbird. He's just the coolest looking dude ever. But he's standing, he's like, Jimmy, and he looks over and he, he laughs and points, and he starts coming over, and I could tell he was just thinking, I asked if I could meet Jimmy Vaughn. But he comes over and he goes, Jimmy, take my phone, take a picture of us together. And Jimmy took his phone, took a picture of it. And then I hand him my phone, and Jimmy Vaughn, he takes a picture of me and Tony, and then he gives it back, and then he goes back to doing what he's The most rock and roll thing that ever happened is Jimmy Vaughn took a picture of me and Tony Goldberg.
That's a great story, man. I guess that's a good one to close on.
Yeah, that was the biggest lie I've told all day. But no, that's a true story. That was fun.
Oh man, I just knew I was going to laugh my head off today. Thank you so much for making time for this, and I've been looking forward to this. You're a huge part of my musical journey and a great friend, and I'm just super happy for you. Thank you.
I appreciate you having me up here. I've been so looking forward to get together and talking, and I'm looking forward to the show and all that. I haven't been back for a while, and it's good to connect with my old buddies again.
Absolutely, man.